Good afternoon, everybody. I've been really excited for this live stream today, mainly because I'm joined by recruitment superstar coach Kate O'Neill. Good afternoon, Kate. How are you?
Do you know what? I'm full of beans today. So you've got me at my best because I'm rested, I'm excited. We're talking about something I'm really passionate about. So yeah, I'm good. Really good.
Brilliant. That's excellent. So we've got two powerhouses today, and hopefully we can bring out the best in today's webinar, which is Cold is Cancelled. And to bring that to life a little bit, I wanted to give everybody that's listening today, and for those that might be watching on Catch Up, a little bit of an overview of why we're here today and what we're going to be discussing. Kate and I had a conversation probably about a month ago now, and
Yeah.
I was chatting to Kate, and I said to you, didn't I feel like I've got to know you, Kate, but we haven't really spent that much time together face to face. I think we've met each other once at an event.
Yeah.
For about 30 seconds, we had a conversation.
It was at
Um,
the Rat Connect event in Cardiff in February.
yeah, that's right. And we didn't
Yeah.
really have much time together because you were busy doing
No.
your stuff. It was a new event for us. Um, However, when we spoke about a month ago, I felt like I knew you as an individual, and I understand your why, which I know is quite important to you. So, one of the questions I asked Kate was, how do you build that presence and how do you get your audience to know who you are, your own authentic self, without having that face-to-face interaction or little face-to-face interaction? And also, how do you build that outreach in the market? At the moment, in the recruitment industry, very difficult to build that BD activity. And quite often I hear you need to get back to basics, pick up the phone. It's all about getting on the phone and building those relationships. But I'm not convinced that that's the right process. So today we're going to hear a little bit more about Kate in a second in terms of who is Kate and what does she stand for. We're going to spend around the next 45 minutes delving into that early stage relationship build. We're not going to talk about sales too much. We're going to talk about how do you build the relationship and demystify that approach when we're looking to build those quality relationships. So we're going to talk about how to ditch outdated cold outreach and turn every lead into a warm relationship. We'll also touch upon knowing your audience, bringing in a little bit of a flavour of some of the platforms that you can utilise, and also how can you consistently show up, not just online, but in the right places where your target audience want to hear from you. A couple of intros. My name's Vincent Seddon. I'm a Customer Success Director here at Simplicity. We provide finance and back office support purely to the recruitment industry, and we've just celebrated our 20th year. So we do know a thing or two by now. Kate, I'm not going to steal your fame, so do you want to give us a bit of an overview of who you are for those of you that don't know Kate already?
Yeah, so I've been in the recruitment industry now for I think it's coming up to well, it's 13 years in November, no September, sorry. And but my business, Kate O'Neill Coaching, I've had for about 4.5 years now. And basically, what I do is I go into recruitment agencies and I work at all levels of the business. So I'm working with the consultants, rookies, experience, the billing managers, the senior leadership team, the directors. And for me, it's all about growth within agencies. So how can the consultants be more successful and happier in their roles? How can we win more business? How can the billing managers be better at their, like all that stuff. Basically, it's about growth, success, development. But a lot of, and I love business development, sales. I always have done. It's a huge part of building my own business. So I really enjoy helping others do the same. But a lot of what comes into that is the stuff we're going to talk about today, really, how you start those relationships because it doesn't need to be cold anymore.
Great. And I'm really excited to hear how you actually do that and what's your strategy behind that. So just a couple of housekeeping before we delve into the conversation, because I know what's going to happen. We're both going to get going with our conversation and there's going to be no airtime left at all for setting the scene. This is a live webinar. It's designed to be interactive. So if you do have any questions that you'd like to pose to Kate, or if you've got any for myself, pop them in the comments box and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can. We have also got some entered questions as well that some of our audience have sent in. So we'll do our best to get around those. Or if you just want to add a comment, feel free. We'll do our best to make this as interactive as possible. So just going back to the beginning, we mentioned that the whole purpose of this webinar today was about how do you start the journey? Where does it all start? And I think sometimes it's easy to say, oh, you just need to be more present on LinkedIn, or you need to buy Sales Navigator, or there's so many strategic actions that are flung around. But can you bring it to life a little bit for our viewers, Kate, in terms of where can you possibly start to think about this?
I think before you start, 'cause when we think about where it all starts, we think it's an initial sort of contact with our target audience, so some sort of outreach. But for me, what gets forgotten is you've got to take a step back from that, and there's prep and a bit of strategy that needs to come before. If you want to stop making things cold, actually it comes sometimes from the research that you've done before, and just knowing things like who are your target market, and getting a plan down on paper. Because like you say, it's easy to say we'll just show up more on LinkedIn, but you need to put some thought around that, because if you just do it on a whim, and everyone's very transactional, not everybody, but there's a lot of people that are too transactional in recruitment, and that's just like there's not enough thought put into it, not enough strategy. So for me, if I think about my content every week that I put out there, I've got a spreadsheet and I plan it. I don't plan it weeks in advance. Sometimes it's the day before, but I've still planned it and thought, right, how can I get the message I want across? What do I want to say? All of those sort of things. So I think where you start is you've got to really think about who am I trying to target? What message do I want to get across? And it might not be LinkedIn actually that ends up being the best place for you to show up, to warm up these relationships. But a lot of people tend to think it is, because everybody in recruitment's on LinkedIn. But actually, when you talk to people, their target audience aren't on LinkedIn. So it's just wasted time. So I think you've got to, before you do anything, reach out to anyone. A key to making things warm is prep for it. Map out your market, who you need to be reaching out to, and what sort of message you want to get across, and all of that sort of thing. That will help you be a lot more effective.
That's really interesting because you, for as an individual, make it look so easy. So when we come across Kate O'Neill as a person on LinkedIn or wherever you might be appearing, it looks very spontaneous, and that it's just happening, and it just is what it is. But there's obviously a huge amount of prep that goes into that, which I suppose is key. It's not just about rocking up on a LinkedIn Live or adding a few comments here. So I'd like to just delve into that prep a little bit more. You mentioned that you have spreadsheets and things like that, but I suppose you've got to map your audience first of all. So what kind of considerations do you put into that process, and what does that look like?
So for me, and it's sort of, this ties in with my business development as well. So you're doing it for both reasons, really. Now, I know my target market, it's the recruitment industry, and the people that I want to target specifically are the decision makers in those businesses. Like with anyone in recruitment, they're going to want the decision makers in the business. So, what I'm doing is looking for agencies that fit the sort of mold that I like working with. So I go for the sort of small to medium agencies because I like the close contact I have with the decision makers. I enjoy working with that size business. I can have a real impact. So you've got to work that out. And then I look for, well, who are the decision makers in each business? Now, I use LinkedIn a lot for that because my target market are on LinkedIn. Everyone in recruitment tends to have a LinkedIn profile, don't they?
Yeah.
So I go and search for those people on there. And I think this is key and gets forgotten. As soon as I find them, I send them a connection request straight away.
And do
Because
you add a note with your connection request, or do you just send them a request?
so I've basically got a spreadsheet, and you can do this on any CRM. I'm quite old school, so I've got my CRM and I've got my spreadsheet. I do it on both. Yes, I'm creating two actions for myself, but it's just on my I've done it since I was 22 and
It
20 sorry
works for
23
you.
when I started in
But you've
recruitment.
only been doing that for a year then.
No, I mean I've been working like
There
that
was a
since I
joke
started in
there. You
recruitment.
said you've been doing it since you were 22.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll take that compliment. Yeah, 23.
Yeah.
I will massively take that compliment. I just tell people I'm 27 half the time. But
uh,
yeah, only for a year I've been doing this.
yeah.
But yeah, I do actually. So I've got a column on my spreadsheet, which I think I've got like what date I added them on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll put the date in. It's a reminder for me to do it as well, right? So and then I keep an eye on it. So when I look, keep when they've accepted me, I send a message to them straight away. I'm not asking for anything. It's just a sort of thanks for connecting message. I'll pick out something I've seen on their profile, maybe a post, and add that in, like, oh, I loved your post on this, and I leave it at that. Sometimes that starts a convo. But they've seen my name. I've popped up as they've accepted me. I've also popped up in their inbox. I want to make sure my posts are going in their feed. I want them to start seeing my content. At this point, I've not even picked up the phone or had a proper chat with them. So I sort of log all of this and track it, um, as well as obviously planning out my content around that target market. So I usually prep my post the day before, because I like it to be current. Um, but I'm always thinking, what's going to land with my target market? That
Okay.
target market I've mapped out, so I know, and I spend time with them and I speak to them. So I'm listening about their pain points, what problems they're having with their teams, trends in the market. So I know then what posts I need to do to speak their language and resonate with them.
Okay, so that sounds like a huge amount of effort, which you would expect in the early stage relationship build. So I'm assuming then that you need to be quite ruthless when you are mapping out your target audience, because you don't want to be spending all this time trying to attract the wrong type of audience. So would I be assuming correctly then that you've got quite a strict criteria of who you're reaching out to?
Yeah, so one of the things I do, for example, is I will go on Companies House and I will look at the financials of, now it's not in the moment, it's obviously the last financial year, usually it's a snapshot, but I want to have an idea of, can they afford to work with me? Because if they're too small, there's no point me reaching out to them. They might come to me. Remember, we get incoming leads as well, but I could it takes me a year sometimes to win an agency. I could spend all year trying to reach out to somebody, and we have great chats and stuff, but they're not able to work with me because of an affordability thing. And we get that in recruitment, don't we? Where you could be
Yeah.
speaking to it comes the same thing. You could be speaking to the wrong person for ages. I've done it before early in my career. You have lovely chats, but they've got no influence on the decision.
So it's
So I'm really
an
strict
equally
on who I
important
speak to in that
process.
business.
Mm.
Huh?
I was just going to say that's an equally important process to follow, because once you've decided your target audience and the ball's rolling with your process, you've gone, aren't you, really? You're down that rabbit hole and you're having that conversation. And I suppose you're not going to realize until you get to the crunch, actually, all that time that you've spent warming that lead up is wasted, because they might have an intent to buy, but if they can't afford to buy, then it's the same thing, surely.
Don't get me wrong, that still can happen. They're not current accounts on there. And, you don't want to assume either. You could speak to a business. I've spoken to many agencies who have looked on Companies House and they look like they definitely can afford me, but they don't buy from me. And that could
Yeah.
be for a number of reasons. It's going to happen, but you want to sort of have your criteria mapped out so this is my target market, this is what I'm going after, because otherwise you literally could we haven't got a lot of the days fly by in recruitment, so
Yeah.
you've got to make the best use of your time and prioritize effectively. So doing it that way means, well, not only can you create more target focused content that's going to benefit people and hopefully bring you leads and warm up relationships, but you're making sure that you're going after effectively higher quality business with people that fit in with your niche, the sort of market that you want to go after, size of business. Different agencies have got different criteria.
Absolutely. Okay, that's really interesting. I think that one of the key things there is about the ability to have intent to buy, because
Hmm.
it's not just about trying to create a decision, you've got to be able to have the decision maker be able to make that decision, which is, I suppose, one of the key challenges. Okay, great. So what we've figured here then is that planning and preparation is absolutely key to map out your target audience, decide what your qualifying criteria is before you then start to go and warm up those leads. You spoke briefly about the next steps, so starting that journey in terms of sending connection requests on LinkedIn and adding a note. Can you bring that to life for us a little bit in terms of what that journey might look like onwards from there? I think the viewers would really benefit from that. And then we have got a question from the audience that I'd like to link into that, because I think that kind of follows on, and I'll bring that up on screen in just a second.
Okay. So yeah, once I've sort of the planning is never ending, okay? So this is a consistent thing you need to be doing like daily, weekly. So you don't get to say 20 companies you want to target and stop. It's like you have to keep it topped up because you're going to have these prospective clients take different journeys at different speeds. And you need to continually be having business to go after and people to contact. But effectively, I'm adding on LinkedIn straight away because that's where my target market hang out. Sending that initial introductory message. And then what I do from there is a number of things. And I don't follow the exact same journey for everybody. But on the most part, again, because my market are on LinkedIn constantly, after that initial thanks for connecting message, I'll leave it a bit. That depends on how long depends on how busy I am or what's going on, but it's no more than a week. And I'll send a follow-up message. The intention of that message is to start a conversation. So hopefully in that week, they might have seen my posts. I'm going to try and engage with their content as well. So over that week, hopefully I've popped up at somewhere, somehow, and my name is starting to resonate. I do a lot of videos because I know they're going to have heard me speak, see my personality. So that follow-up message then, my aim is I want to get a meeting with them. I want to get a conversation, as in at least a phone conversation. So I'll send a message and I'll have a call to action in it, as in a question at least. But I've again using my prep for this. So what have I seen on their profile that made me think they look like I want to work with them? How can I open up a conversation? What is a pain point I know is going on in this market at the moment that they're going to read and think I want to reply? So for me, a lot of the time, I know that a lot of the agencies in my sort of market that I go after struggle with getting their consultants to do business development or in the way they think it will work. So sometimes I ask a question like, how are your consultants getting on with their BD at the moment? Something like that. And hopefully we start a convo, which I can then lead into, look, let's just jump on a call when you're free. If they don't respond to me, not everybody does, I would usually then follow up with a call and then, I can say, oh, look, I did message you on LinkedIn, but I thought I'd give you a ring. So, but sometimes I do it in a different order. But that tends to be what works for me, for my market. I found that process I get the best results from in terms of getting people to know me, to talk to me, to get meetings. But it's going to differ depending on your industry that you target.
Okay, and so when you do so let's say, for example, you've sent a LinkedIn request, you sent a message, you've had no response, you pick up the phone, and for whatever reason you get through to that person. How often does that person know who you are when you phone?
Usually, if it's somebody that hasn't answered a message to me, it depends. It depends how long we've been connected. But I've rung people before and we've never spoken, and they've answered going, "Oh yeah, no, I've seen you on LinkedIn. How's your High Rocks going?" Or yeah, I saw a video of yours recently, and so I do get people are aware of me sometimes more than others. But even with the calls that I book after a few messages on LinkedIn, they're warm straight away because they might say, "Oh God, that post you did the other day was really funny," or something like that. And quite often, what I do is I'm looking at who's liked my post and who's engaged with them. Because if I'm not connected, I'm going to add them, and also who's viewed my profile. And I use that sometimes as a conversation starter, like, "Oh, thanks for engaging with my post the other day. Are are you having the same problem with your team, or what did you think of this?" So I use it to get a convo going. But yeah, people people have an awareness of me already when we chat, and it just warms it up straight away. It's just you're talking like you've known each other for ages instantly.
And that's great. I think that's the power, and that's ultimately, again, where this webinar first started. So, with that in mind, we have a question from one of the audience, which I'll pop up on the screen now. Shafiq would like to know, what is the most cost-effective route for lead gen, outsourced or an internal hire? And this is quite an open-ended question, I know, but linking into where we were going with that conversation, what would be your initial response to that question?
Um, I don't know what your role is in the business, but what I find happens a lot is people get very obsessed about lead generation, and a lot of people don't particularly enjoy sales. So, and I have had this conversation with somebody recently. What they tend to think is, oh, I know, I will outsource my lead gen, or I'll get somebody else to do it. I think, and it depends who you are in the business, right? But I think sometimes it's actually just learning to do it yourself. So, because no one can replicate you. Nobody can replicate you. Now, if you are a manager with a team of consultants, they're going to do their lead. They're going to. You can train them to have the right processes, but they're going to have their own style, and that's great. But if you're thinking about, well, I don't want to do my lead gen, so I'll get someone else to do it, I would say do it yourself. But you've just got to become more confident and learn how to do it, because nobody can replicate you. You are unique, and you need to utilize that uniqueness. And no one can speak like you, right like you. That authenticity is something that people are craving at the moment, craving it. Because if you go through LinkedIn, and again, LinkedIn might not be your main platform for your target market, but if you scroll through LinkedIn, um, it's a sea of chat GPT. You can tell it from a mile off. And I don't mind about using chat GPT, but you just got to make some tweaks so it sounds like you. But I think I'm personally not about outsourcing lead gen. I just think, I know people say it works, but I'm just not here for it. Um, Internal hire, if you're internally hiring them to be a consultant, of course your consultant should be generating leads every day. So if that's what you mean, I would go down that option. But if you mean for yourself, I would do neither and learn to do it yourself first, and you will benefit from it massively.
And I would have to agree with that. Having tried various different approaches, we have also tried as a business to outsource the activity of LinkedIn. And you're absolutely right, Kate. Whilst everything was completed as we asked, the authenticity was missing, and the people behind the profiles was lost a little bit. And you kind of have to expect that, don't you? Because if someone else is running your profile, which is meant to be you as an individual, it's never going to be what you would write because you haven't written it.
Yeah.
So absolutely, we have definitely been through that, and it didn't quite work for us. So we've taken that back. So I would definitely endorse the fact that try it yourself first. And if you're looking to create business development activity and lead gen, I think the only way to do that is by doing it yourself for sure. Okay, great. So a few other questions. We're getting quite a lot of interaction here, which is fantastic. Just one endorsement, I suppose. Jethro agrees with not being too salesy when connecting to potential hiring managers. I think it's fair to say LinkedIn, quite a lot of people in specific roles get inundated with messages of all of the same kind. So yeah, absolutely. Shannon would like to know how often you post, Kate. You've spoken about having regular posts on LinkedIn. What does that look like?
I post every working day on LinkedIn, so Monday to Friday. I've got a business page that I used to also post every working day on, but I'll be honest, I haven't got the time to. So that's gone down now. And it doesn't get as much interaction anyway. So I post less regularly on there. But on my personal profile, which is where people engage with me the most, it is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sometimes I post at the weekend, only if I'm doing something that I think, oh, that would be good. And then I've got an Instagram profile as well. I post mostly Monday to Friday on that and stories. I've got a YouTube channel, so that's 3 shorts a week on that. I've got the Cozy YouTube channel that I manage. That's got shorts and stuff that go on that as well. I've got the Cozy LinkedIn page. So I've got a lot of content that I'm managing that I plan for. But on my personal profile, Monday to Friday, every day without fail, I get a post out.
And do you post that at the time, or do you pre-plan your posts and set them up on some sort of
The day
automated
before.
function? Okay,
Yeah, it's rare that I'll post in the moment, but usually I just do it. So, for example, this morning, in fact, no, not this morning. I had my LinkedIn Live today, so just before this. So I've downloaded the show already. What I'll be doing later is creating a short from the show, and tomorrow, and then I'll schedule a post to go out tomorrow with a clip from the show and a little caption. So, because I used to plan a week in advance, but I very much I like I come up with new ideas then and I want to delay the content. So I tend to do it every day and I like to be current. Like what have I seen today that needs to be shared? What's going on at the moment that I want to post about? So I just do it the day before. Or on a Friday I'll do my prep for Monday.
okay. And I suppose then, well, I think I can answer my own question. It doesn't sound like you have any support in that. It's all very much you're doing it with the help of maybe some pre-planned posts. But that, how much time, and this might not be a question you can answer easily, but out of your week, how much time do you spend on this kind of activity?
I think it depends. Sometimes it takes me 2 seconds because it might be a video. So videos are for me are easier. I can quickly record the video, add the captions, little caption on the post itself, done. If it's something written, it can take me ages sometimes because I'm a perfectionist. So I might write it, then I'll read it and change it again, then I'll read it and change something else. Then I might go to the gym and think of a new idea and come back and change it again. So yeah, I can't it really depends. I'd say every day I block out an hour, but bearing in mind, I'm blocking that hour out for all my social media channels to prep for. So if you've only got one, it shouldn't take you that long to do a post for the next day potentially. Um, it's just because I've got multiple platforms to prep for. That tends to be what takes up the most time. Um, but I think the key is if you are posting when you are trying to post what you think should be posted, your content will take you longer because it's not really what you it might be something you're maybe not that passionate about, it might be something you're not that knowledgeable about and you've got to research it and all of that. If you're posting stuff that's your ideas, your thoughts, what you're hearing in the market, what you're passionate about, it doesn't actually take that long because it's all coming from in here and you're just splurging it onto paper or putting it in a video. So I think in the past when I've maybe tried to post something that I think I should post, it takes me ages. I don't.
Because you're
People
thinking
might have
about it too
experienced that
much.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, makes sense. So it would be fair to say, Kate, that you are quite unique in terms of your ability to complete these tasks, and what might take an hour of your time may take a whole day, 2 days, or not even be possible for others. So let's put you into isolation for a moment because not everybody has your skill. So for those that want to be able to do similar things but don't know where to start in terms of how do you actually do it, what support is available that people could take up? You know, have you had any training? Have you been to any webinars yourself? Is there any external support that they could gather?
yeah. I think first of all, if you're new to it, don't push yourself to post every day. Ease yourself into it. So start with maybe 2 posts a week, and when you get you because it's all about getting used to it. Once you get into a routine, it will feel normal, and then you might up it to 3, and then you might up it to 4. So I think that's a big thing is just introduce yourself to it slowly. When I started my business, I had a marketing agency that did my content. So I think I learned some really useful stuff from them, and it helped me build a bit of a profile. But they didn't have a recruitment background, um, and I sort of got to a point where I was like, I need somebody that understands recruitment. So then I moved to a different agency, and I wasn't with them for that long because I started to realize, like, hold on, this is not how I speak. This is not it would be quicker in a way for me to do it because I'm having to give up more ideas because I need it to sound like me, whereas I could just do it myself.
Yeah.
And I swear, I promise you, when I started doing my own social media, my brand grew massively and very quickly. So I think if you want support, you can go, and there are some amazing freelance marketing professionals that are on LinkedIn. You've got Fiverr, where some brilliant people on Fiverr if you want some help. But I think if I had my time again, I would I would go and do some courses, to be honest with you. I'd just go and learn a bit about it myself, but find my own style and my own voice and just do it myself. I don't even think you need to do courses. I think honestly, you just need to get out there and try things out. What is the worst that can happen? Like when I started doing it myself, I just tried different posts, different things. What do I like posting about? What works? How do I like to sound? And over time, it's just gone from there quite naturally. You sort of learn from yourself through reflection and reviewing things.
So the key thing there, I suppose, is that no one else can be you apart from you.
Yeah.
So the only support that you're going to be gathering here is how do you project yourself into your target audience. And it sounds like your advice, Kate, is really give it a go. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
And if you need some help, perhaps reach out to people like Kate, or an independent marketing agency, or just maybe download one of these apps that you can use to support you. Or Fiverr. You mentioned Fiverr, and a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know what Fiverr was.
Oh, I
So
love it.
I had a quick look at what Fiverr was, and I was quite impressed. So do you want to let everyone know what Fiverr is in case there's other people out there that are thinking, what's Fiverr?
Yeah, Fiverr is it's almost like a marketplace for freelancers essentially for anything and everything. So I found my virtual assistant on Fiverr and he is absolutely brilliant and it's worldwide. So he lives in Pakistan, but he supports me as a VA for my business. So you've literally got access to so many talented people for a whole host of things, from anything from video editing to social media support to admin, like anything you can think about, they're on there. Um, and it's really affordable. You know, depending on the size of your business, really affordable. There's a lot of people to sift through. It's like Netflix, and you could spend hours trying to find something to watch. So you can fill in criteria on there. It's got like search filters. I think you've just got to sort of pick out your top five, chat to them, and filter it down and go from there. Really, but yeah, I think it's brilliant. You get access to amazing freelancers.
I think when I popped on there, I thought, oh, this is too good to be true. So it's good to hear that you've tried and tested. So if you are looking
Yeah,
for
I've
some
used it a
support,
lot. I've used
okay,
it for video editing, loads of different stuff. I haven't been disappointed once with the sort of the results that I've had from it.
brilliant. I'm sure there's a lot of people now reaching out to have a look at Fiverr. Okay, we've had some more questions come in whilst we've been chatting, which is great. And as expected, we're not even a quarter of the way down the planned questions that we had, Kate. So,
We thought
but
this would happen.
yeah, I kind of guessed that it would be the case, but there we are. It is what it is. So we have had a question in from Mary, and Mary wants to know if a prospect said no, which unfortunately that does happen quite often. When is the best time, or is there a best time ever to reach out again?
Um, oh, I could talk all day about this. Okay, so first of all, when a prospect says no, you need to think, are they actually saying no? Because half the time it's a not right now, but you're reading it as a no. So it's not a rejection, it's an objection. So often what people don't do is they don't explore that objection in the moment. They sort of go, okay, bye, put the phone down, or if it's an email, sort of think, oh, nothing I can do with that. But actually, that can be really helpful for you to understand what a client really means and really needs. So I would probe around that if you can. If it's still a no, fine. I would normally, it depends what you've been talking about. So for example, if I'm asking for a chat very early on and somebody's not up for it, um, I'll be like, right, okay, I need to do some more warming up, and I might reach out a month later, for example. If I've sent a proposal and we're at a good point, we've got a good relationship, we've had a meeting, we've chatted on multiple occasions, I've sent a proposal, it's a no to the proposal. A month is going to be too soon because if they've said no because they can't afford me, well, I'm probably not going to follow up even in a month. I'll keep in touch, But if it's a no for other reasons, like, I don't know, something's going on in the business, a month is probably too soon because those things in the business are still going on. So you need to judge it on, but obviously, if you've explored why it is a no, you'll know then when you need to follow up, and how. So I know I'm not giving you a set answer there, but this is the thing with recruitment. We're dealing with people. They're not a pen or a cup, like a solid product. They're a person with a brain and different behaviors and all of that stuff. So you've got to, it's a case by case basis. So when you get that no, you've got to in the moment read, how is it being said? What's the tone of voice here? Is it a no really, or is it maybe an excuse or an objection? And dig deeper into that, which will then help you with what you do next, essentially. So I hope that's answered your question, but it's, like I said, because we deal with people, it's not as simple as someone says no and they mean no. Quite often they don't actually mean no. It might be they don't actually understand enough about what you do or what recruitment is or whatever it is.
So it sounds like the key thing there then is to be curious and understand why, what made
Yeah.
that no happen at that time, and is there still an
Yes.
opportunity? Mary says yes, that has helped. So thanks, Kate.
Good.
Okay, so we've spent quite a lot of time talking about that early stage, and building that audience, and then thinking about who's your target market, setting up that initial conversation. So let's assume now that we're at the point where you're having that conversation, whatever that might be. How do you then convert? So we can't obviously do business via LinkedIn all the time, or any of the time, maybe for some customers. So how do you take it from LinkedIn into business?
I'm trying to get a conversation with anyone I'm warming up on LinkedIn ASAP. So that could be a Zoom meeting, that could be a phone conversation, that could be me going in and meeting them, face to face. That's my goal. So that is what I'm trying to do, as quick as possible, because for me then leads to business. I can go in, I can have a proper chat, I can find out what's going on, which then leads to me sending a proposal. Proposal then hopefully will lead to business. So for me, I know getting in front of my decision makers is key, because they've got to know me a bit on LinkedIn, but they need to see the real me. Like when I say the real me, I mean this physical form, even if it's over Zoom, because we can't chat. What I find what some people do these days is they have pen pals, so they're just emailing back and forth or LinkedIn messaging back and forth. You're not going to win as much business and bring business over the line unless you get conversations, where you get to really, really connect and build a relationship. So yeah, you can't. It goes the same for candidates. You can't just continuously speak to candidates on LinkedIn Messenger or email all the time. You have to speak to them to really know who they are, what their needs are, how you can help them. It's no different with the clients. So I think the aim is, and you want to solidify the relationship so it's a no brainer for you to chat. But that's the goal. Get on. We want to be booking in these conversations.
So I'm guessing, it sounds like LinkedIn is like the professional corporate version of Tinder. Tinder is a way to communicate, start the conversation, but the next step has got to be, let's meet, let's get to know each other, let's understand if we can work together moving forward. Okay,
Yes.
that makes perfect sense, and I think within that, it's probably really important to think about the purpose as well, isn't it? What is the purpose of us taking some time out of the day? You mentioned about face to face. How often do you go and meet your customers face to face during that early stage part of your conversation?
Quite often, yeah. And I'll travel, so I mean, I've got the flexibility to do this. This is my business, but I'll go to Manchester and meet people, and Manchester's a 4-hour drive, sometimes longer for me. So yeah, as much as I can, I'm always at the end of the day. Sometimes location, diaries, it's not possible to meet face to face, and it is better to meet virtually. Sometimes some of the people I might suggest face to face, and they would prefer virtual. I'm not going to push against that, but I usually will suggest meeting face to face ASAP, and that's my goal. Because I know I'm good in front of people. So if I'm trying to win business and sell my business, sell myself, well, I want the best chance possible of doing that. And that is by being in the room with people. Because again, you're solidifying that connection. I think COVID has sort of pushed people. Yes, there was some benefits to knowing we can do more things remotely and online, but it's taken some of the human part of our job away. And I remember, like, when I first started in recruitment, I loved going out on meetings, and it was just the done thing. And it isn't always the done thing now. And I think it shows effort. It shows clients you care, you want to get to know them. You are willing to go out of your way. And not every agency or every consultant will do that. So it's going to help you stand out. So I think it's a no-brainer, really.
Absolutely. It's refreshing to hear that because as we were coming out of COVID, the constant thing we were hearing is that we were embracing technology. We were no longer meeting face to face. The BD landscape had changed a huge amount, and I think it has changed a lot of what we do permanently. But it's actually quite nice to hear that we are going back to that genuine relationship build process, and there's a need for it. On top of that, we have obviously had a huge amount of advancement on AI and tech, which can be a hinder or a help depending on how you look at that. So how do you embrace AI and tech within your business, if at all?
I probably embrace it less than other people do. I mean, I only started using ChatGPT back end of last year. And I'm selective about what I use it for because it's important to me to keep the authenticity in what I do. I use it mainly to help me with things like if I post a YouTube short, a good caption to get engagement, because you're limited on characters. So I might put in what I think is good, and ChatGPT will tell me shorten it to this and put these hashtags, that sort of thing. Um, I send out a weekly mailer to my subscribers. And again, I find I have lots of ideas, but sometimes getting the words out on paper, it might not be as succinct. So I might write something and say to ChatGPT, would this make a good emailer? How would you change it? And then they'll tweak it, and then I might tweak it again. It's those sort of things. I don't tend to. I don't tend to get it to do everything for me, if that makes sense. So I won't say, "Can you write me a post about this?" and then copy and paste it and schedule it. I never do that.
Good point.
I use it to sort of sort my ideas out, and sometimes write things better. Maybe it's structuring things better sometimes than maybe I have. So it's not even the words changing; it's moving it around. So that's what I tend to use. I use an AI tool that like changes long form videos into shorts based on like keywords and things like that. That is massively helpful for me and has saved me a lot of time. Adds captions and things for you. 'Cause it used to take me ages to do that, make
Mm.
shorts out of a full length video. So I use it for things like that, basically to streamline my time. So I can go and do the things that AI can't replicate, which is go and deliver training, go and coach the leaders in the business, go and speak to those people to, have meetings. AI can't do that for me, but what it can do for me is the sort of admin tasks that streamline my time.
And that's great to hear. It sounds like you're using AI and tech to make you more efficient at doing what you do best, but not trying to replace that.
No, and
Which,
that's what I think it should be used for
yeah,
in recruitment. I think I personally, anyone that says um, recruiters won't be needed soon, like AI is going to take our jobs, I don't think it's going to fully take our jobs. You can't replicate a human to human experience. It's going to do the bits of our job that historically have taken so much bloody time. If you think about, I've got like an AI note taker that comes into meetings with me. Oh my God, if I had that when I was a consultant, the time it would have saved me typing up notes into the CRM.
yeah.
I don't have to do that now. My notes are automatically in my CRM. That is just amazing.
Mm.
I use it for things like that because that's what I see it being there for, and we can be better recruiters as a result of it, because our time can be spent doing the people facing and effectively the activities that bring money into our businesses.
Yeah, and I guess it comes down to being slicker and quicker at what we do. And I've
Mm,
seen some CRM systems recently that have a bot within them, and that bot is not replacing the person; it's making the
mhm.
person quicker at completing the task. Which I think is going to be the common thing within recruitment, which is nice. That's great. We're going to keep that need. I just want to circle back to a word that you used in your previous answer. You mentioned engagement, and obviously that comes through your videos and your authenticity and what you're posting and your language and lots of other things. Um, and I know we've already spoken about this, but it was a thought that I had the other day where I've seen a lot of videos, not necessarily yours, Kate, but seen a lot of content on LinkedIn, and there has been occasions where I've taken a short, sharp breath and thought to myself, I'm not quite sure that that is for LinkedIn. So I'd quite like to understand from your perspective, when does professional become unprofessional, and is there limits on what you should be posting on LinkedIn? Because I know you want to get reactions and interactions, but where is the line?
So again, I think this comes back to knowing your audience. So I know that my audience, I can push the boundaries because they tend to also like pushing the boundaries. So it works. Not for everybody, but for the majority of people it works. But also that's me being me. Um, Now, I think the difference is if you are posting purely for validation and for the likes and the comments, that purely for that, then you sometimes get drawn into posting whatever's going to get people's attention. But you need to think, you still need to remember who are my target market and what sort of message am I trying to get out there and how am I trying to connect with people. So if I think about sort of close to the line stuff that I've put out recently that's done well, but also differed in opinion, I had a message from a fake recruiter, essentially, or a bot, um, and asking me if I was a part time recruitment consultant role. And my response always is, have you looked at my profile? Now, the person replied about something in my headline, which some people might say is inappropriate, but that's me being me. I screenshotted it, thought I'd retracted very clearly the person and it's not a real person anyway, but posted it to my profile to create a talking point because a lot of us in recruitment or a lot of people, and not even in recruitment, are getting these auto messages or these bot messages or these fake recruiter messages, and they're just wasting time and it's just not quality interaction. Now, it blew up for other reasons. Now, some people might say that's not for LinkedIn or that's unprofessional, but it fits in with me, what I'm about. What I was meant to get across is about high quality recruitment and how you can't replace people with AI, clearly, because look at the mistake that was made there. And it creates a talking point. And sometimes I post about the gym, but it's always related to something to do with my business or something to do with something else. But it's still, in essence, it's me, you know? So I think it's a really open question because you've got to think, what are you trying to get out of it? So if you do post something personal, maybe it's what you got up to at your weekend. I think that's great sometimes because your audience want to see the real you. But, it depends on what you post about your weekend and whether your audience appreciate that. Do you want to post about if you went out and got really drunk on the Saturday night and blah, blah, blah? If your audience are going to be like, don't really want to know, that's a bit unprofessional, then it's not going to land. And I know you're being yourself, but there's other things you could share about your weekend. Do you
Okay.
see, it's,
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. If we just kind of add another layer there, then, because I suppose for you, Kate, the beauty that you've got is that it's your business and you don't have
yes.
anyone to answer to. So it doesn't matter whether people think what you post is professional or unprofessional. I suppose it does in a way to you, but nobody's going to hold you accountable apart from maybe you're not going to generate the pipeline you'd hoped if you do something wrong or, not quite what people want. So if we think about a traditional recruitment agency, you're going to have the business owner or the C suite and then your consultants. Do you think is wise then for expectations to be set when it comes to building a persona externally, so that the leader is in control of that, or is it a beg for forgiveness kind of thing? What would your advice be on that?
Yeah, I think it needs to be clear what the expectations are and the boundaries. And I think it's important that you want your consultants to have the personal brand, but it also you need the values of your business, your sort of mission statement to flow through as well, because they're part of your organization. So I think you've just got to be really clear, like what's okay and what's not okay. Um, where it goes wrong is when it's not clear, and you can't reprimand people when you haven't set those clear boundaries, because might have genuine, they might have had genuine sort of positive intentions behind it, but you just might not have liked it. And also, it's a lot of this stuff is personal perception, isn't it? It's like somebody might love one of my posts, but somebody else might think it's really inappropriate. So you need to define, I think, clearly, maybe in the mapping out phase, like, right, if you're posting content, this is what we expect, this is the sort of stuff we want to see from you, this is the sort of things we don't think are appropriate to post. Just set those boundaries and make sure that there's a nice mix of company focused content, personal content, um content that fits in with like industry news. I mean, this is what I do myself anyway. You mix it up, but you've got to help them so they can plan effectively for their own content. Otherwise you are going to get people pushing it maybe where you don't want them to.
So it sounds like there needs to be some level of expectation and boundary set
Yeah,
between
that's a safe thing to do.
yeah, and I should think in the modern age that we're in at the moment, and social media, etc. Most businesses will have values that they live and breathe. So I suppose it's important that the employees of that business represent those values as well. We've got loads more questions, but we're at 2:52. We've got 8 minutes left. We could go on for hours. I really want to ask you a question about motivation before we go into any tips that you want to give to the audience, because what is evident in today in our conversation, bearing in mind this is probably the first proper conversation that we've had together, it just so happens to be live, is your motivation. You have got sheer motivation when it comes to these tasks, which some people might not have. So how do you keep yourself motivated to run this process week in, week out, to get the outcome that you ultimately want slash need?
I think you need to work out your why. So so you're a recruitment consultant. Why are you there? Like what motivates you? What drives you? So I don't know, say it's providing for your family. You then work backwards from that. So if I want to provide for my family, and maybe work out what you want to provide for your family, work backwards from that, and it's all remembering that it starts with some of the stuff we've spoken about today. So you might not enjoy creating your content the night before, for example. Sometimes I don't get me wrong, sometimes I don't want to do it. There's other things I prefer to be doing, but it's remembering why you're doing it. So obviously that it brings it, consistency will bring outcomes with that. But why am I doing it? Where is it going to get me to? Where is it going to lead? Everyone's why is different. It's not always money. It could be, a promotion you're going for, or to impress your boss, or maybe you are motivated by building a personal brand. Who knows what it is, but you need to work out what that why is. It could be more than one thing, but I think if you've got that clearly defined, anything that you're doing as part of your job that may, because you're not going to love everything that you're doing, but the things, like when I used to do a lot more video editing, it's just I can do it, but I don't really enjoy it. And it would be for me remembering why I'm doing it. Maybe as well change your environment that you're doing it in. So if you are a remote worker in recruitment, or you work on a hybrid basis, maybe go to a coffee shop and do your prep for your content, for example. Or if you are in an office every day, maybe it's moving desk. I know it sounds really ridiculous, but sometimes it's those things. Or pal up with somebody and say, right, come on, me and you, we're going to do our content for tomorrow. Let's co-work on this. Just little things like that that sort of motivate you. But I think remembering why you're doing it and maybe even have it on a post-it note so it's visible. So it's like, right, come on, I can do this, I can get this done.
So keeping the end in mind, I'm hearing there. Or I
Yes.
suppose they could reach out to someone like you for you to push them forward and keep them motivated. And that links nicely into the next and final part of today. So I'm sure we've got some viewers out there that can't wait to get started and get their own individual persona out there and start building the momentum. Um, but what support can you provide, Kate, for those that are sat there thinking, I have no idea where to start? I'm sure they have a much better idea now from some of the questions that we've asked today. But if they need some support, what can you do to help them?
If they need some, I mean, I do. If it's sort of I do a lot of work with people around what we would call business development, and there's so much that comes under that umbrella, so much. When I started in recruitment, it was effectively picking up the phone. That was your BD. Now there's so much we can do. There's different outreach methods. There's all the planning, the research that goes into it, identifying your target market. So I do that work a lot with people and businesses and creating a strategy around all of it. So um, that is, a big bit of what I do. And I think I'm helping people from experience. I'm doing it now. I do it every day. I'm not just talking about when I did it 10 years ago. So yeah, I work with people one to one as well as in groups and going into agencies, but it's basically everything we've spoken about from the very first thing through to trying to get business over the line is what I support with essentially.
Great. So for those of you listening today, definitely reach out to Kate if you think that she can support you and your journey when it comes to quitting the cold outreach. It's been really, really interesting today, Kate, and I'm sure the viewers have really taken at least something away from today's session. Thank you, everybody, for your interaction. It's been absolutely fantastic. There have been some questions that we just haven't had time to answer. So it feels like we might have episode 2 pending at some point. So definitely an opportunity for us to finish today, but leave time for more questions moving forward. Kate, is there anything final that you want to add to today?
Um, well, one is I know Leanne's last asked this question twice. It's Fiverr, so Fiverr, just so people know where to find Fiverr. I think final thoughts is just give it a go and just show up and be consistent. Don't expect to blow up the internet on your first post. I don't blow up the internet on most of my posts. Actually, most of my posts, if you look at the engagement, don't do as well as other people's. But think about the results it's getting you. If you're getting conversations and engagement from people that you're targeting, that's the main thing. It's sort of trying to drop the ego around it. So I say just give things a go, try things out. If something doesn't work, try doing it again a different day, different time, or just trying something different completely. I think that's the main thing is just give it a go and be as consistent as you can and give it time to build.
Don't give up too soon. Okay, Kate, thank you so much for your time. It's been really useful, and hopefully everybody's got what they wanted out of today's session. I definitely feel a lot clearer when it comes to cancelling the cold outreach and some of the key things that we need to do moving forward. Thank you once again. Hope to see you very soon. Thank you to everybody that's joined today's live webinar. We will be planning to do some more webinars throughout the next few weeks and months. So keep an eye on our social media platforms. And hopefully you can get to know us more and you can get to know other people through your own persona. Until next time, thank you very much and hope to see you all soon.
Bye.